Let's talk more about Deebo Samuel because Deebo Samuel yesterday, after this news broken by Jeff Darlington directly from Deebo Samuel's mouth, noted on Twitter, or at least he liked a post on Twitter of a Cowboys graphic jersey swap, which he later deleted that like or unliked the post. I'm not sure the proper Twitter vernacular. We have the receipts, though, as we just showed you right there. So let's begin with our cast one more time. And Robert, I'll start with you first. What's the value for Deebo Samuel to teams that could be trading for him?
Yeah, I mean, his value is exponential. When you talk about the pure money, it's somewhere between Stephon Diggs and Tyreek Hill, right? 24 to 30 million a year. But he's earned every ounce of that, and that value comes from him just being a wide receiver. He was a phenomenal catch and run guy last year, dominant. He went out there, he led the league in yards per catch at 18.3, but he was 65th in target as far as the yards per target depth at 8.8. That's an insane amount of yards after the catch, nearly 10 yards. And Deebo, he attacks the ball so well, it would make things so much easier for a guy like Zach Wilson. And Deebo's attacking this situation with the 49ers the same exact way. No plucks given. He told him what he wanted. He said what he said. He requested what he requested. And I'm not mad at him. Listen, if he wants to be whatever's going on there, he's the only one that knows it, him, his agent, and the 49ers. But for whatever reason, Deebo Samuel wants to get out of town.
That's right, Robert. So, of course, we start to think about what teams that he could potentially land with. I think the one I've heard the most, whether it be social media or just people texting me, is the New York Jets. Will he wind up with the Jets? This is a team that obviously has the draft collateral. They've got the money to do it and the need at the wide receiver position. They were basically in the hunt for Tyreek Hill until the final moment when Hill said he was going to the Dolphins over the Jets. Of course, now the question becomes, Robert Saleh, the head coach, knows Deebo very well in San Francisco. What value does he place on Deebo? And I think it's important to remember here that this is not to say that Saleh does think that Samuel is not worth it, but I will say that he understands the brilliance of Kyle Shanahan probably better than anyone as well. So if he's going to give up that much collateral, Joe Douglas being the GM in New York, I think that there will be a very frank conversation about whether they can afford to give up the collateral and then also pay Deebo. Will that work in their offense? It's a familiar system, but maybe not the exact system that Kyle Shanahan runs.
Yeah, I think that what you're talking about, Jeff, is really what they call surplus value, performance value relative to the cost to acquire an asset like Deebo Samuel. And look, no one is going to get the kind of surplus value out of a player more times than not than the team that originally drafted that player and knew that player from his origin, from his beginning, from his start, and really was able to figure out how to best utilize the player to his fullest. That's San Francisco, right? That's Kyle Shanahan. So for me, when you're looking at these kind of situations, yeah, it sounds great to talk about, well, where could Deebo go? Where could he maximize his value in terms of earnings? Where could he, like for us, generate a lot of interest in terms of helping a team really ascend from an offensive standpoint and become an explosive team? That's why it's easy to fantasize about Kansas City, fantasize about the New York Jets, fantasize about any team for that matter, the Green Bay Packers needing a player like this. But the cost to acquire this kind of player and then the risk of not being able to duplicate the kind of environment that he comes from, duplicate the kind of play calling sequence that he's used to, duplicate the kind of production that he got when he was in San Francisco, I would say buyer beware. And that's not to knock Deebo Samuel in any way. He is a freaking stud, and he showed that time and time again. But the risk squarely lies on the acquiring team. And if you're Kyle Shanahan, you have to know that, and you know this. If it does come to a point where you have to get rid of him, you have to fleece whatever team it is that is going to go ahead and acquire him. No question about it.
Yeah, Lou, they definitely have to do something because the only way the 49ers lose in this situation is if Deebo doesn't play, they play hardball, and he misses an entire year, and they don't get anybody back in return for him. Not only are they losing their best player there, right? They just don't have anybody to fill that void. But what Deebo Samuel can't do is devalue himself to the rest of the league just because he's so valuable to the 49ers. It's proven what he did there. It's repeatable what he did there. But he can go somewhere else and do that as a wide receiver or any other position on the field that he he wants to play. So although the 49ers losing Deebo and what he has done there means more to them than it would to any other team in the league, it doesn't mean that his value should be diminished or he should take less money from someone else just because he's so valuable to the 49ers.
Louis, final word here.
Yeah, no question about it, Robert. Look, there's no question he should not settle for anything less than what he feels as though he deserves on the open market. That's why I tell you what, just to piggyback off of what you just said, that's why to me, because his value will never be higher than what it is to San Francisco. Look, you hear me talk about relationships all the time in the NFL. Somehow, some way, they got to find a way and take it to the 11th hour and 59th minute and 59th second to figure out how they could keep him in San Fran, because he is just that good and that valuable to them on the field and off the field and in that locker room.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.